Welcome to AUDL Weekly. This is the program all about ultimate stories, perspectives, conversations, and more. I'm Evan Lepler, and we've got a jam-packed show for you tonight as we preview the opening weekend of the 2022 AUDL playoffs. Coming up, we've got Adam and Daniel delivering their usual disc debate. We also have a brand new Up, Line, and Out of Bounds as Matt Smith sits down with Salt Lake superstar Jordan Kerr. But first, a very special treat. 3 division-winning AUDL coaches are going to join me to share their unique insights and perspectives on the 3 playoff games that are on tap for this coming weekend. We'll start in the East with New York co-head coach Charlie Hoppus. That's coming up after the break as you watch AUDL Weekly on AUDL.tv. So stick around. Let's preview the East Division playoffs in the AUDL. DC and Philly are coming up this Saturday at 7 o'clock on FS2. And for a little insight into the Breeze and the Phoenix, we welcome in the co-head coach of the New York Empire, who's awaiting the winner of this weekend's game in the East Final, Charlie Hoppus. Thanks for joining me. How you feeling?
Feeling really good. It feels like, we our schedule is pretty front-loaded, and so we haven't played too much the last stretch here, and we still got a little bit to go before we get to play again, but we're excited to play the winner of that game. It's 2 really fun teams.
Yeah, so I'm guessing you'll be watching this weekend, and you've played both teams obviously a couple times this season. Curious if you can share your insight into what are the first things that you think about when you are getting ready to prepare for the DC Breeze and then the Philadelphia Phoenix.
Yeah, it's such amazing conflict of styles, right? The Phoenix they definitely have a little bit of a smash mouth vibe to them, where there's a lot of, trusting their athletes, trusting their throwers, making big plays on both sides of the disc. Really, crowd friendly kind of ultimate that is also high variance, right? I think that they've done, especially the back half of the season, they've done a lot of great work to raise their floor and become more consistent. And so they still have a lot of the high flying element, but also, are the lows aren't nearly as low. They're just so much more consistent. And you see that in their results the back half of the season. That's a really interesting development for the rest of the division. And then the Breeze, of course, are the epitome of consistent. They are rock steady. You know what you're going to get from them in terms of their mentality. In the meantime, they are very adaptive and, can play a bunch of different styles if necessary. And so, those are 2 really different and unique opponents. There's definitely not a one game plan for whoever comes out of that game for us. They're very, very different teams.
Well, they played twice during the regular season, obviously, and had 2 one-point games. DC basically winning at the buzzer in both of them. So we're hoping for a great game this weekend. Is there anything that you think could be the difference maker, either from a personnel standpoint, a strategic standpoint, or maybe even an experience standpoint? I mean, that's something that I'm thinking about. DC has been in this spot before. No one on Philadelphia has played a playoff game for the Phoenix. They haven't been to the playoffs in 9 years.
Yeah, I think, obviously, we've been rolling this over in our own minds as we sit and wait. I think I managed to make it to the game in Philly between the 2 teams, and I thought, it was interesting that Philly's defense was able to some degree, drag the DC offense into the Huck game, And I think that was both sort of a vibes thing where it just sort of felt right to be shooting the disc all over the place, and also like an X's and O's thing where that was the thing that was available. And so, DC always does a great job of taking what's available. I thought that was an interesting thing for Philly, and I think if they're able to do that successfully again, I think that's a good thing for them. I think, on the other side, DC has played, a lot of big games against excellent teams and won many of them over, the last number of years. And Philly's had a really great season, and they've got a lot to be proud of. They, haven't had these sorts of big games over the course of their franchise's history very often at all. I think you can count on one hand the sorts of games that are going to matter as much, and maybe one finger, that are going to matter as much as the DC game coming up. And so, that's that experience is invaluable. And, having coached teams like that, I know that it's hard to do something you've never done before. But once you do it, you've done it, and it becomes much easier, much more quickly. So that's an interesting thing for sure. I think, I would assume that a lot of people have DC pegged as a favorite. I think that's probably right. I think if Philly wins that game, though, they're going to be no less dangerous an opponent for us because they've gotten over that hump, right?
Yeah, well said. Always good to have you put on your analyst hat. Quickly, let's ask you one question about your Empire team. As you said, it's been a while since y'all have taken the field. You kind of clinched a playoff spot, feels like a year ago now. I mean, that's exaggerating, obviously, but it's been a while since you've known. You'll be playing on August 20th against the winner of that East Division semifinal game. Where do you feel you are with all the pieces you've added as the season progresses? What's the key for the Empire in terms of peaking at the right time and winning another championship?
I think our players are extremely hungry. I think that's one of the special things about this group is, and this season with this group is people aren't taking the opportunity for granted. I think a lot of teams talk about wanting to be the best versions of themselves day in and day out, and I think that this is the team that I've coached that has been sort of the best at really putting on that mentality each week. I think that plus we've got a lot of unbelievable pieces that allow us and that are top players in the world at many different things. And it allows us flexibility in terms of what we can do with personnel, what we can do stylistically, that is, I think, pretty unique in the league. And that is exciting, as a coach, because if we do run into problems, we've got an excellent plan A, to be clear, and excellent plans B and C, and, the league has seen all of those as the years progressed. But there's, if we need to break glass in case of emergency, there's a lot of really great options for us that we feel incredibly confident in, that we've managed to get reps throughout the season in at practice. So yeah, we're feeling good. We're excited. We're excited for the opportunity. I think the sort of season we're having, it's a special season, and I think trying to put a bow on it is something that everyone's excited about and doesn't take lightly. I don't think we're looking ahead at all.
Yeah, feels like you've got plan A, B, C, D, all the way to X, Y, Z if you had to get there and wanted to pull that trigger as well. Charlie, I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your thoughts and analysis with us as we get ready for the playoffs this weekend. And I look forward to seeing you in New York a week from Saturday. No matter who your opponent is, I'll see you there. Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks for having me, Evan. Looking forward to seeing you.
Awesome. That's the head coach, or the co-head coach of the Empire, Charlie Hoppus. Coming up next, we'll shift from the east to the west and chat with Colorado co-head coach Mike Lunn as we continue on AUDL Weekly. We continue on our sequence of playoff previews by chatting a little bit about the West Division, and for that, we're joined by the co-head coach of the Colorado Summit, Mike Lunn. Coach, good to see you as always. How you feeling? week and a half away from your playoff game?
Feeling great. Yeah, spending some time at home with the family in Minnesota and enjoying the weather here and some quiet time.
Good deal. Well, I imagine you'll be watching on AUDL.TV this weekend when the San Diego Growlers and the Salt Lake Shred meet in Utah to determine your opponent. The West Division is the only division in the league where 3 teams had at least 9 wins. So as you look at San Diego and Salt Lake, what are kind of your general thoughts about the main strengths and perhaps some of the differences between each of those 2 teams?
Yeah, I mean the first thought about San Diego is they have good size, but the big thing is their experience. You know, they have a lot of veterans in the league. The last time we played them, they're really stingy with the disc, which was less the case the first time we played. You know, I think that experience is going to make a big difference since they've been here and they've seen just about everything that a team could throw at them at this point in the season. Utah, you know, obviously they're young, they're so athletic though, fast. They play fast, they make big plays, and that's something we're always, you know, have to be aware of, especially if we want to take advantage of some of our athletes. You know, I feel like they can certainly match or challenge a lot of those one-on-one situations that we're used to having an advantage against most teams.
So a term that we've been using in Ultimate over the past month or so, and probably before then, but it's just like the idea of variance. And we talked about it with the Mooncatchers at the World Championships, that Belgian team, that like they're a high variance team. Mm-hmm. If they're clicking and their big plays are working, that they can really be tough to tangle with, but they also, you know, will have the dips and valleys at times as well. How does that concept work into this upcoming game with, I mean, there's a perception, I think, that San Diego is the veteran team that's steady and Salt Lake is this high variance squad. That's how they want to play. Is that kind of how you see it?
A little bit, I suppose. I mean, at some point, players have to make plays. You know, our defense is very much centered around sort of containment and playing the odds to a certain degree, and then eventually relying on our athletes to make those plays. But certainly, you know, San Diego, it's not like they're not an athletic team. They have a lot of size and good athletes. I do think, you know, that their experience in the moment, again, is going to make a big difference. That said, they are 0-2 against Utah this season, so we'll see. You know, Utah, they make big plays. So if they're clicking against anybody, I really think that could be the difference maker.
Good deal. Well, it's going to be really.
My mom's refilling my coffee as we speak. Thanks.
All good. It's like we're just having a live chat. From the Summit perspective, regardless of who you play, you're going into the playoffs with an 11-1 record. You're going to be at home. You are dealing with some injuries that, and I know you're hoping to get guys like Jay Fruit and Quinn Finer and Alex Atkins back, but their status is still a little bit uncertain. What are the biggest things that you are contemplating in terms of trying to peak at the right time on August 20th when you host either the Growlers or the Shred, and then perhaps beyond?
Yeah, you know, I think health is the number one thing, and getting reps together. Yeah, Quinn, I know he jogged yesterday. He was concussed a week ago, so hopefully he's on the mend. I haven't heard how the jog went yesterday, but I'm hopeful that he'll be ready to go. Obviously, we don't want to rush anybody back from a head injury. Jay is close. Hamstring, you never know. Those are nagging, and Kins, we're cautiously optimistic. You know, he's got a knee issue. I'm pretty optimistic he'll be back for the club season, but whether or not he can make it back for AUDL is, I think, would be a pretty aggressive timeline. But yeah, getting focused reps, I think, is going to be big. Because we've also been without Nut for a little while because he was competing at Worlds, obviously, with Ring. So getting him reintegrated, some chemistry, as guys have a little bit of shifting priorities with the club season kind of underway now. It's we got a little bit of time. Thankfully, we have this bye to where we don't have to be completely ready by Friday, Saturday this week. But I think having extra time together will make a big difference in terms of our preparation.
Great stuff. One final question, just generally about the season. The Summit's first year in the league, your first time coaching in the AUDL. As you think back over the past several months, what stands out most to you about the joys and or the challenges of your first year competing in the AUDL?
Gosh, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if I could pick one out of the hat at this moment. We've talked, TK and I have talked a lot about it's so fun to coach in this league because you know who's going to be on the rosters. We have statistics, we have film available. From that standpoint, it's been a total joy, just like really being able to hone in on things. And the format's cool. It's awesome to be able to fly in, play a game under the lights with fans. That atmosphere is like nothing else we've ever experienced, and our home crowd legit led the league in attendance this year. So I love it. I guess a huge shout out to our ownership. Sal Pace has been really working on that marketing, and we just have a good community. I think that's the coolest, and the coolest piece that we had very little control over, other than the fact that we are trying to put a good team together. And I hope that the 11-1 record helped in getting butts in seats a little bit.
All well said. It certainly did, and the Summit fans deserve props, as do the marketing crew for the Summit. And I imagine it's going to be quite the scene in Denver a week from Saturday night when you host either the Growlers or the Shred. I'm sure you'll be watching this weekend, as we all will. Mike Lund, thanks so much for putting on your analyst cap and sharing some insights with us, and we look forward to chatting with you down the road. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Evan.
That's Mike Lund, the co-head coach of the Colorado Summit. We got one more division to go. Let's talk about the Central on the other side of the break. We got one more division to discuss. The AUDL Central Division playoff game this weekend is the Indy AlleyCats and the Minnesota Windchill. So let's bring in the coach of the Chicago Union, who's awaiting the winner of that game. Dave Woods joins me now here on AUDL Weekly. Dave, thanks so much for joining me. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. Glad to be here chatting with you, Evan, as always.
Yeah, great to see you. Looking forward to being in Chicago a week from Sunday, but we got to decide who the opponent is going to be, and of course we don't make that decision, they do. As you look at the AlleyCats and the Windchill, you've played competitive games against both those teams this year. What stands out to you in terms of kind of the respective strengths of each of those teams?
Well, their last matchup was pretty exciting to watch. Both teams were utilizing a big deep attack from what I saw, which is always fun to watch. And both teams have got solid throwers and receivers, both on the offense and the defense side. So that was fun to watch. In terms of individual strengths, with Minnesota, everybody knows that they are a fast, athletic defense team. They are always tough to go up against. They have players like Abe Coffin and Brian Vanuka who can play defense one point and then come out and beat you on offense on the next. So that's always tough to game plan against. They've got throwers that can throw across the field. They can throw it deep. Players like Klain, players like Aroy, players like Brandt. We saw those guys in that last matchup throwing some deep balls as well as throwing cross fields that are super hard to defend against. So that was fun to watch and something that we're going to have to try to plan for. And then on the defense side, they've got athletic guys that will beat you on defense, and then when you are trying to figure out where the disc went, they're down on the other side of the field scoring in the end zone. So we know Dick Clerk is having a great year. Madison is having a great season this year. I already mentioned Abe. He's always tough to play against. So yeah, Minnesota has got some really good things going for them. In terms of Indy's strength, their offensive players, most of them have been playing together for several seasons at this point. And so their offense is almost always in lockstep, where as soon as one cuts, there's another player that is reading that and is cutting deep, ready to catch that deep ball off the undercut. And when they are clicking, which they have been recently, they're very tough to play against. And they can be very, very efficient with their attacks. They also have players that can beat you with their legs as well as beating you with their throws. Players like Keegan North, players like Levi Jacobs, who you game plan to push them away from the disc and they catch it in the end zone. Then you switch your strategy to try to push them towards the disc, and then they beat you with throws. So again, they've got players that can do a lot of good things for Indy and create headaches for opposing teams. Carter Ray has been a great addition for them. He's had some good throws, and he's playing a good role as that center handler role. But then again, they also have players on the defensive side who can create havoc on defense, and then when they get the disc in their hands, put up some big scores against you, put up some big throws. Players like Xavier Payne, he's had some booming throws, and he also has had some amazing defensive plays. Jacob Fella, he is a big fella, and he also is really tough to play against. So the last game that they played was exciting to watch, and they were trading blows the whole game. So I'm excited to watch that again and see, like you said, which team coming out of it is going to end up playing Chicago for the division championship in a couple weeks.
Yeah, that's a really good breakdown. One of the common threads that we've kind of talked about across the divisions is the battle of, experience in the league and how much that matters. And, like DC has more playoff experience than Philly, and San Diego has more playoff experience than Salt Lake. And look, Minnesota still is looking for their first playoff win, and they thought they had it at your place last year, but the 5-0 run late denied them that glory, and you guys got to go to championship weekend. How much does the playoff experience matter? Indy's a young team, but they also have guys who have been to championship weekend and know what that takes.
Yeah, I don't think it should be understated, the value of those big game experiences. Indy a few years ago, they found themselves at championship weekend and got that big game experience. There's still several players from that roster that are still playing for Indy that can, lead that team deep into the postseason with that experience. Minnesota, they got the experience playing in the big game to go last season against us. And, like you said, they're still waiting for their first postseason win. And I think having the experience of going and then feeling what it feels like to lose and then being hungry for that first win, I think will be good for Minnesota. Hopefully, that'll be good for us too. The same thing happened with us at championship weekend last season. So hopefully that experience will also carry us forward. But I think the postseason experience means a lot. And I know for us, we're definitely going to stress the importance of everybody that's available to be on our sideline in our division championship game. We're going to try to have as many players there on the sideline as possible, because that's an experience like no other, that you can't, like the AUDL games are fun and exciting in their own, but it does not, the regular season games just do not quite compare to that postseason excitement and energy.
Great stuff. Real quick before we let you go, how are you feeling about the Union? What's going to be the key to peaking at the right time as you head into your Central Division title game at De La Salle Institute a week from Sunday?
Well, what these two teams playing this coming weekend are going to have against us is that they are going to have some recent exciting play, and whichever team comes out on top is going to have some solid momentum coming into our game, whereas having 2 weeks off kind of bit us in the butt last season when, like you said earlier, Minnesota came out and they beat us 3/4 of that championship game, the division championship game. So that's something that we're going to have to try to combat on our end, is making sure that we are, as much as possible, simulating the intense postseason reps as we can at practice, as many chances as we can get, so that we don't come out flat and we do come out intense and ready to take it to whatever team comes our way. What's interesting is being on the outside looking in, you kind of have to prepare for whatever you're going to see. We know both teams very well, but it'd be nice to know now who we're preparing for the next 2 weeks. Unfortunately, we have to probably focus internally this week, and then once we know who we're going to be playing against focus externally next week. So an interesting and an exciting couple weeks up ahead for the Chicago Union.
Well said. Great stuff. Can't thank you enough, Dave. Glad we got your dog for a little cameo in there behind you over your shoulder. I know he always likes to make an appearance on your Zoom work calls, so glad we could get him in here as well. And hope you enjoy the AlleyCats wind chill this week and get to scouting, and we'll see you a week from Sunday.
Can't wait. See you guys soon.
That's Dave Woods, coach of the Chicago Union. Man, this has been fun talking Frisbee with some of the smartest minds in the league. We'll transition to Adam and Daniel on the other side of the break. After hearing from a few AUDL coaches, let's go to our league insiders. We welcome back Daniel Cohen and Adam Ruffner. Gentlemen, the hair is looking particularly fantastic today. Thanks for joining me here as this playoff edition of Toss Up gets rolling. Adam, we'll start with you. Topic number one. Who's your pick to have a better plus-minus on Saturday in Salt Lake? The Growlers' Travis Dunn or the Shreds' Jordan Kerr?
Now, I feel like you constructed this question particularly to irritate me because you know my beef with the plus-minus statistic. We should just toss it aside. It preferences offensive scores, which is why I'm going to pick Jordan Kerr for my answer, but it's not a great metric, especially for a player who is playing both ways as well as Travis Dunn is right now. I think both players are going to be of paramount importance for their respective teams in the opening round West Division playoff matchup. But for plus minus, I expect Kerr. I kind of expect Kerr to go for double-digit scores. I think he's going to be a huge focal point for the Shred attack. They need him in this opening round matchup at home, and I think he's going to come in with a big performance. So I'm going to pick him for plus minus, but just like quietly slide this whole statistic off the table, please.
It's the first playoff game for Jordan Kerr in his career. Travis Dunn has been in a bunch of playoff games. Daniel, where do you side on this one?
I think I lean towards Kerr, and again, it's just because of the scoring numbers. I mean, he had over 100 scores this season. 107 is what he finished with. Dunn was down at 77, so a plus 30 advantage for Kerr in that metric. Like Adam said, plus minus just heavily favors those high scoring numbers, and the fact that Kerr has been like by far the most consistent scorer, the go-to scorer on this Salt Lake offense. Dunn has had his fair share, of course, but they've also got Goose, they've got Sean McDougal. I feel like any of those guys are able to put up those big scoring numbers in any given game, whereas with Salt Lake, you just assume it's going to be Kerr dishing the assists, getting downfield, and like Adam said, they're going to need him. They're going to have to lean on him if they want to have a chance of pulling off this win. So I will agree on Jordan Kerr.
This can be just a yes or no follow-up. If I had changed the question to who will have more total yards in the game, would that have changed either of your answers?
No. I still think Kerr is going to have a fantastic individual performance.
All righty, we shall see. Topic number 2, let's shift to the East Division. I'm not sure what DraftKings has set the line at, but if I set the line at DC minus 2.5, who are you taking against the spread? The favored Breeze or the underdog Phoenix? Daniel, you go first.
I like this line a lot, Evan. Good job. I hope DraftKings matches it. I think, throughout the season, I always look at the numbers. You look at the efficiency stats for DC versus Philly, and I always feel like DC should be beating them by not handily, but at least by a few goals. Yet we've seen twice now, Philly has consistently proven me wrong. I'm going to take Philly in the points. I just think we're not seeing much of a gap between these two teams, despite what the efficiency numbers might tell us. And last game, Philly actually outperformed DC offensively, and 2 1-goal losses. That's all of their losses this year have come by a single goal, except their New York losses. They have this tendency to keep games extremely close. It's that O-line defense of James Pollard and Sean Mott, really guys that will not quit on any given point, and I think that mentality runs throughout the Phoenix team. So I'm gonna take the Phoenix to. I'm taking the Phoenix in the points. I don't want to take them to win outright, but I think maybe a 1 or 2 goal win by DC seems decently likely.
The hedges are out. The hedges are out.
I think that was
Adam,
a clear-cut answer.
As much as I like this Philly team right now, I think that they've been playing fantastic over the past month of the season. I think they've got enough playmakers on offense to battle with DC. But I think going into their pretty much first ever playoff game as a franchise, it almost feels like, given how long it's been since the Phoenix organization has been in the playoffs since 2013, I'm going to take DC to cover that, because I just think that in a game, in a playoff environment where things are going to tighten up, the extra Philly mistakes are going to come in really harshly against a DC defense that has been counterattacking great all season. They're number 2 in D-line conversion efficiency, and I expect that to play a big role on Saturday night. I expect the Phoenix to punch throughout the game with DC, but I could definitely see the Breeze pulling away a little bit in the latter stages of the game at home, owing to some of their defensive momentum. I think the Breeze are going to be carrying in a lot of experience and kind of swagger into this game, not having to run into Raleigh or New York, who have ended their last 2 postseasons right away. I expect Breeze to come out really, really strong in round 1.
Interesting. So we got some disagreement here. And you mentioned the last 2 postseason losses for the Breeze, Adam. They were both at home. In 2018 against New York in that torrential downpour, and then last year they had a 4-goal lead early but could not hang on against the Flyers, who obviously went on to win the title. All right, one of you got the Breeze and given the points, and Daniel, you're taking the Phoenix with the points. Let's move on. Topic number 3, to the Central Division we go. Simple question: who's scoring more goals on Saturday in St. Paul? Indy's Cameron Brock or Minnesota's Quinn Snyder? Adam?
Now, all due respect to the league leader in goals, Cameron Brock, but I'm going to go with the law of averages this season, and Quinn Snyder, who is currently averaging more goals per game against Indy than Brock is against Minnesota. Brock traditionally has a harder time against windshield defenders. They have a lot of guys who can match up well with his speed, size, and general field awareness. There's a lot of veteran defenders on this Minnesota lineup, whereas in contrast, Snyder has just presented a problem for Indianapolis. Going back even to the 2019 season, he's so good in one-on-one matchups. It's something that Indy, I think, down to where they struggle the most on defense might be a little bit of a problem for them. I just expect Snyder to have a big playoff debut in the AUDL and to come away with probably like 5 or 6 goals on Saturday night, somewhere in that vicinity. And I think the Wind Chill are going to get the win.
Daniel.
I think I'm done doubting Cam Brock for this season. So I'm going to take Cam Brock. I mean, he's just continued to light it up as a receiver this entire season. And I lose track. Is it year 10 for him? Leading the league in goals. He has shown no signs of slowing down. I also think in this playoff setting, it's a setting he's familiar with. The vets on this AlleyCats team are going to need to really take charge in order to keep pace with the Wind Chill. I agree with Adam. I think the Wind Chill will win this game, but that might mean the Indy O-line is out there for a few more points than the Minnesota O-line. So I think as far as like touch numbers go and likelihood of Cam Brock really compiling a bunch of goals, I feel like I favor him slightly over Quinn Snyder, despite Quinn Snyder also having a fantastic goal-scoring season of his own.
It'd be fun to see them matched up against one another, but that probably won't happen because they'll both be out there on offense. 2 tremendous goal scorers in the league. Okay, moving on. Topic number 4. We're just going to go straight up. Who you got winning the West playoff game this weekend, Daniel? The Growlers or the Shred?
Taking San Diego. I just side towards the experience at this point. And really, these teams are kind of going different directions right now. We've seen Salt Lake. They started off the season with 5 games, averaging just over 17 turnovers per game. Over their last 7 games, that number's up over 21 per game. So, we've seen this trend of just these 20-plus turnover games, whereas San Diego has kind of gone the opposite direction. They've gotten a lot cleaner as the season's gone on. They're coming off a 10 turnover performance against Oakland the last week of the regular season. So I'm just trusting their system a little bit more than Salt Lake at this point. We've seen what Salt Lake's potential ceiling looks like. It's almost as if San Diego is still maybe approaching theirs. And I think this playoff game, this big game experience that San Diego has is going to be enough to give them the edge in this one.
Adam, what do you think?
Going back to what we were talking about earlier with Travis Dunn versus Jordan Kerr, I just think that Salt Lake's offense has become so overly reliant, on their star playmaker that it's going to be a bit of a bottleneck problem for them in their offense against a San Diego team who has simply been there before. I think that you've seen the Shred over the past few weeks as their turnover numbers have climbed and their offensive efficiency has dipped, become very reliant on 2 to 3 playmakers every single night on offense. And you contrast that with the San Diego team, who seems to get 5 or more contributions from Travis Dunn, Paul Alley, Goose Helton, Hunter Corbett, Sean McDougall, Kyle Rubin. You can go on and on. This Growlers system is designed to perform in the postseason. They get contributions from across the board. And I'm just worried with that kind of stability and balance of attack that Salt Lake is going to have to really find itself on the fly, even if it has that home field advantage. I expect the Shred to fuel off of that home field energy, but I am also going to pick the Growlers. I just think that San Diego and their experience has been building towards this all season. And like Daniel, I worry that Salt Lake might have played their best ultimate in April. They came into this season probably the best conditioned team maybe in the league. That has kind of evened out over the course of the season, and you really see the Growlers hitting their stride right now. So I'm going to take the 2-time reigning West Division champions to win round 1 on Saturday night, but I think it's going to be a battle. I really think it's going to come down to that first quarter. If Salt Lake can't get their trademark big goal lead at home in that opening frame, I think it's the Growlers to lose.
Wow. So both of y'all picking against the 10-2 Shred. And look, the metrics, especially Daniel, that you brought up are right and reasonable. But there is one metric that you may not have considered. It's that the Growlers have won 4 in a row. The Shred enter the playoffs with an even longer winning streak. So, look, I'm not going to make a pick. I think it's a true toss-up game. But I am a little surprised to see you both go against the Shred in this home game.
Make your pick, Evan.
Yeah,
Come on.
make a
This is
pick.
us
Come on.
prompting
you. Can't just sail that
Make your
ship.
pick.
I will take Salt Lake. I'll take the
All right.
Shred at home. Don't feel great about it. Obviously, the Growlers have had a great track record, but Salt Lake 2-0 against San Diego this year, and they've played well against them. Now, the Growlers, I don't think are going to drop the disc 11 times like they did when they last traveled to Utah, but we'll see. The elevation, the circumstances, the crowd, Salt Lake's energy, big playmakers. I'm feeling better about it as I talk myself into it. And you know who feels good about that pick? The guest in our next segment here on AUDL Weekly. Daniel and Adam, thank you. You can hear the playoff preview Swing Pass podcast coming out soon if it's not out already. But Jordan Kerr is joining Matt Smith on Upline and Out of Bounds. That's coming up next.
What's up, AUDL world? Welcome to the playoff edition of Upline and Out of Bounds. Today, I am super excited because I am joined with a second-year phenom in the league, Mr. Jordan Kerr of the Salt Lake Shred. How's it going, Jordan?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on, Matt.
Absolutely. I'm excited for everyone to get to know you, so we'll just hop right into it with the intro. So, first question for Jordan, hometown.
Hometown. I was raised in Highland, Utah. So, born and raised out in Utah.
Hometown hero then. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Current age.
I am 25. It's actually my birthday today. Just turned 25.
Oh. Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Did you attend college? If so, what degree did you get?
I did. I attended BYU out here in Utah. Just graduated in April, and I graduated in strategic management.
Cool. And are you using that currently? The next one is current occupation.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm currently working just as like an account manager for a software company out here in Utah.
Very cool. All right, we're going to switch it over to Ultimate. So, position on the field currently.
Yeah, I think I'd say I'm probably more of a hybrid, kind of start downfield, kind of get in the cutting lanes, get the disc, and then I'm usually looking downfield for Joe Merrill or someone to score. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to give you the hybrid pass. The footage and the stats reflect it. You can call yourself a hybrid.
Sweet.
Yeah, I love to see it. Why don't you fill everybody in on your ultimate origin story?
Yeah, I started in, I think, like 10th grade. My math teacher was our high school coach back in like 8th grade, so he kind of got me to start coming out to some practices. Taylor Barton as well in the Shred kind of got me into it, so started playing in high school, really loved it, and then went from there to college, and now we're out here playing pro.
All right, so from high school all the way to the pros, last one here, your favorite AUDL moment over the last couple years.
Yeah, probably my favorite AUDL moment was kind of our first home game as a Shred player. I mean, I'd kind of played games in our rookie season with the Spiders, which was a ton of fun, but being able to play at home in Zions Bank Stadium in front of family and friends was a ton of fun. The stadium was super packed, it was loud, and we got the win, so that was a ton of fun and it was really memorable.
Absolutely. I'm sure we'll have some footage of the stadium with the packed crowds and the twilight. It was absolutely amazing for sure. All right. Well, now that the audience knows you a little better, we're going to jump into today's game segment, which is GOATs, a classic.
Ooh.
So this is greatest of all time.
GOATs.
I'm going to give you a few categories. You tell me who, what, when, where, why, whatever you think is the greatest of all time in that category.
Ooh.
Any questions?
No, it's just, okay, I like this. Let's do it.
Yeah. So, first one. I know you're a golf guy. So, greatest of all time, golf course that you've played.
Golf course that I've played. Oh, man. That is tough. I've played a few courses out here in Utah, a few out in California. I played one in Hawaii, which is really cool. I think it was called Waikoloa. Gorgeous, right on the beach, stunning. So, big fan. Highly recommend it.
All right, as someone from Hawaii, I'm gonna go ahead and say that's the answer. The one in Hawaii. So, all right, next one here is greatest of all time TV comedy series.
Ooh, TV comedy. I do like a good TV show. Friends is definitely up there. That's really good. Office is obviously a classic. If it's comedy, I'm a huge Parks and Rec guy. I think Parks and Rec is super funny. Big Andy fan, so I'm locking in Parks and Rec. Give me Parks and Rec for best TV comedy.
All right, Parks and Rec. Solid answer there. Solid answer. Next
Do you
one.
agree? I think so.
Greatest of all time is a tough one. It's hard to lock down one. I will say I don't watch a ton of Parks and Rec, but I don't have a great alternative, and I don't have an argument for another one.
Okay.
So it's an acceptable answer to me.
No, you've got some homework to do in the off season then, Matt.
I know. I do need to laugh and watch more funny things. I'll throw out Rick and Morty as like my favorite sort of animated comedy series.
Okay.
But I'll report back for sure next year.
Good.
All right, next one here. This one might take a second, but feel free to take your time. Greatest of all time athlete from the state of Utah.
Athlete from the state of Utah, like from Utah or like played in Utah. Would that count?
Either one. You can either one that has some sort of tie to Utah.
Okay. Ooh, I'm probably gonna go John Stockton. He was a little before my time when he played for the Jazz, but I mean since then I've watched tons of highlights of Stockton and Malone, and love the way that he played on the field, or I guess on the court. A lot of assists. I'm a pretty big assist guy myself, so big John Stockton fan.
All right. Yeah, I believe he's still number one in steals and assists in NBA history, which is wild because he hasn't played in, 20-something years? So
yeah, it's pretty tough.
Yeah. All right. That's a solid answer. Stockton. All right. Last one here. You're clearly a big sports guy, so greatest of all time, sports venue or arena that you have been to?
Ooh, okay. That's also a good question. I kind of grew up a huge kind of Boston fan, so I was always kind of a Celtics, Patriots, but I'm gonna go with Fenway Park. Huge Red Sox fan. Been there a few times for a few games, and I also think the venue is stunning, and it is a very, very good environment if you ever want to catch a ball game.
All right, yeah, that is a classic. I can attest to that one. I have been to one Red Sox game out there, and it was pretty awesome. So, all right, yeah, that's Fenway Park it is.
For sure.
All right, well, I appreciate you playing the game. Unfortunately, we are running out of time for today, but before we get out of here, any last shout-outs you want to give?
Oh. Yeah, let me give a shout out to Sean McDougal. Got a big game this weekend against San Diego. Been a huge fan of Sean and his game ever since I kind of started following the league. So super excited to play against him again. I'm sure he's gonna do a lot of good stuff for that team. So excited to play against him, and can't wait.
All right, I think that is the first shout out that has gone to an upcoming opponent. But I agree, Sean McDougal, great guy, awesome player, so a worthy shout out indeed. Well, I know I speak for the rest of the AUDL community to say that I'm super excited to watch y'all host the San Diego Growlers coming up this weekend. So good luck with that. But for now, back to Evan.
All right, Matt, great stuff with Jordan Kerr. What a season for Kerr and the Shred. They'll try to keep it going this Saturday night against the San Diego Growlers, one of the 3 huge playoff games coming up this weekend. Should be a tremendous playoff experience. But that'll do it for the show here tonight. My sincere thanks to all of our guests. Charlie Hoppus from the Empire, Mike Lund from the Summit, Dave Woods from the Union, all had great perspective to pass along. Thanks also, of course, to Adam Ruffner and Daniel Cohen, Matt Smith, and Jordan Kerr. And a huge thanks to our editor extraordinaire, Luke Johnson, for putting this all together. My name's Evan Lepler. Thanks so much for checking out our playoff preview show tonight. Hope you enjoy all the great Ultimate this weekend. And I'll talk to you again right back here next Wednesday.